So this analogy that you used about external stressors and like body stressors being in one box, like I have an example. So this is actually how we had to stop the podcast. I had lost my babysitter and had to switch my whole work schedule. And I remember I had to switch my whole work schedule to being with my daughter. I live with my daughter, but primarily watching her from 7:30 until my wife got home at 5. And we were doing our podcast, I think around like maybe like 10 or 12, something like that.
Yeah.
So it worked. Like I had time to train perfectly fine, and then we would shoot the breeze on the podcast. And that external stressor, that's what made me have to start training at 4 a.m. And for a while, like you would think I would have just picked up like, this is why this is so different. Every squat session, I almost like cried. So I was like squatting at 4:30 a.m. And I was getting ready to train for a powerlifting competition.
Yeah.
And I was like, this just, like, I'm weak or I'm soft or something. And I'm like, why can't I like
push through like before?
Yeah, I was like, forget 12 noon. I was like golden. Like I had like 2 meals in me, and I was like, I'm good. That external stressor was my whole regimen.
Your life got flipped upside down.
Life happened. So
now, did you adapt after that? Like after a while, did it adapt to the point where like you were comfortable? Not comfortable, but like you were better off later on than in the beginning of squatting at that time?
Yeah. It took like the 10th week.
Yeah, I feel you.
Like the 10th, like every week I was like, well, you can't train at 12, so.
If this is your option. So you're training. Yeah.
I was like, so you gotta go early enough to train. And at that time I was getting ready to compete. My goal to compete was to hit 560 in the meet.
And that itself is a lot of stress as well. Just
that alone, yeah. But I wasn't adding that up. I was just literally like,
there's life.
Like, I don't know what's happened to me. Like, last week I was squatting 4 or 5 for 10 with like no problem. 2 weeks now I'm squatting 4 or 5 for like 5 and like wondering what's going on. So, long story short, looking at those external stressors, can they sometimes bring in body stressors?
I think that if you have too much external stressors coming from different parts of your life that aren't even gym related, it 100% can have an impact on your training. It's like, think about this. Think about if you had, God forbid, a loved one passed, right? When you go into the gym to train, the amount, like obviously loved one passed, tears, it kills you inside. You're emotionally just drained. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been so emotionally drained that you just feel like you want to go to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine going into the gym and trying to train to hit those numbers when you're emotionally drained like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an extreme extent from it. But like if you talk about any external stressor, it's pulling a little bit from that box of being able to push yourself physically. You know, so again, that the extreme of someone passing, you come into the gym and try to train, your mind is not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So it's something that we want to think about, or the audience wants to think about as well. When training, you have to be mindful of that box. So there's some stressors happening. It could be a flat tire. It could be someone said something.
Anything negative.
Yeah, anything negative could be the stressor. Now, how do we decrease, or is there a way to decrease some of the stresses in that box?
I mean, that really just comes down to individual people and how they handle stress. And some people meditate, some people go for walks, you know. But if you have like a thing that you can remove from your life, so say you're in a very toxic relationship that makes you stressed all the time, that's on you, bro. You can pull yourself out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's some things that we can actually pull ourselves out and separate ourselves from that person or that thing that's giving us stress. But there's some things in life, like say you have a kid and your kid's constantly getting in trouble at school, and you got to consistently go to school and you got to consistently talk to the principal, and it's something that's happening. You can't just be like, oh, I'm not dealing with that kid anymore. You know? that stress is there, but it's just like, how do you handle that now? Now you have to remember, like, I have other things in life that I have to prioritize. I'm gonna go prioritize this, but I'm not gonna let it eat at me like it did the first time, the second time, the third time. You just learn to handle things a little bit better.
I like that. I like that. Some stressors you have control over.
Oh, 100%.
You could,
and we don't think we do, but we do. You know, it's not easy to separate yourself from a person or a thing that you habitually have been with or been going through for an extended period of time. But like, hey man, it's the hard things that make us better.
It's a boundary.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, there are certain times when I train in the morning, like my training time now is around 5 a.m., a little later than 4 a.m., but a little later, because I got adjusted to training in the morning. It made sense for my schedule. But when I come in, I know as soon as I go near someone, I'm not ready to talk.
Oh yeah.
So I literally just go like in the corner.
Yeah, or dab somebody up the tip.
Yeah. Like,
with all due respect.
Yeah, with all like.
Yep.
So I know if I started talking, I would lose time in training.
Yeah.
Immediately, and I know that would stress me out.
Yep.
So
because you're on the clock.
Because I'm on the clock. Yeah. So you guys, I'll try to find the video. You guys got to see. Joe has a stopwatch, and there it goes. The stopwatch is on. I freaking love it. The stopwatch is on his chest. I use my watch, and for a long time, whenever I would be training, when I stopped the set, I would be doing this. That's one new. Like I was waiting to go back in. But stressor standpoint, I know I'm not ready to talk, so I have to make a boundary to be like, just go in the corner or go on the other side, warm up over there or whatever until you're ready to come over here to talk. So in that box of stressors, the things you can control them.
Yeah, to the best of your ability. And if you can't control that at 100% today, try 10% today, and then try 15 the next. It doesn't have to be at 100%, but you have to work on yourself to be able to handle that stuff better, because like, we create our own stress because it's what we handle with what we interpret. So if something happens to us, we can let it affect us hard, or we can just be like, all right, it's not going to ruin my day. It's not going to be the end of the world, and then you can try to move on from it. You know.
What about body stressors?
Body stressors, that to me is more along like we were talking about before, like where you are in your phase.
Yeah.
If you're at week 2 or 3 in your phase and you're having like hardcore body stressors, your volume is probably too high. There's something going wrong.
Way too high.
If it's later on in your phase, I mean, obviously it's just accumulated fatigue, but ways to, to reduce that would be putting in non-planned rest days, making sure you're not doing anything, like say it's the summer and your extracurriculars, like to go hiking and go biking and stuff like that. Cool, have fun with that. But guess what? If you start getting beat up, you might want to reduce that, because that might be something that's giving you a little bit more overall cumulative fatigue than before.
Which some of the body stresses, your central nervous system could be like, hey, cool out for a little bit, and you're like, I'm going for a 2-hour hike. So it's like your system is like, bro, that's not
chill,
yeah,
man.
like,
Please.
like, that's not nothing against hiking or anything like that. When you're in a phase, or you're realizing like something's going on where I'm not feeling well when I squat or bench, that like whatever I'm doing.
That's cognitive too.
Yeah, like
mentally.
It's like if it's mental stuff, just mentally, where you can change that. But if your body's starting to talk to you and your body's like feel like it's lagging, you're better off just being like, let me control that part of the stress by being like, I'm gonna take the day off.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go take a 3-hour hike and think it's not gonna affect my squats the next day.
Oh, because it will. And then you'll learn,
Yeah, it will. You learn. So, what are some ways to deal with body stressors?
I would say again, it's honestly just making sure if you need more rest days, you're taking the rest days when you need to take them. If you're doing exercises that are like promoting inflammation in a certain joint or connective tissue area, or it's like a muscle that's not happy at that time, leave it out. Don't play with it. It's so simple, but we in our minds, like, if we have these 4 exercises we have to do these 4 exercises. It's like, no, you don't. If one day you come in and you feel that for 100%, like, I don't know, your spinal erectors are like just not okay today because of 2 days ago you did pulls, right? And today's, maybe last time was a fat ball or dumbbell RDL, and today's a barbell RDL, and your spinal just are shot. You're not gonna hit your numbers. Don't do that exercise. Work on your teres minor, major, your rhomboids, your traps, but you don't have to do that, selectively doing what you need to do.
How does someone, I think that's the reason why you should have a coach of some sort.
Yeah.
Or somebody to check in with, so that you don't think, I did RDOs on Monday, I got pulls again on Wednesday, and I know it's not gonna look good. Let me try it anyway.
That's when you get hurt, bro.
It's like, that's when you get hurt, or you check in with your coach, and they're like, all right, let's take these RDOs out, let's put something else.
Or even just leave it out completely and have an exercise that's not in there, so it's less cumulative fatigue, you know?
I'm a big fan of that. I'm like, if it's hurting and I know it's not gonna go well, me touching it's not gonna do anything good for it.
Well, it's like a scab. If you have a scab that's trying to heal, you keep picking at it, what do you expect?
It takes way longer to recover,
Yep.
and things like that. So with body stresses, one thing I found that has helped me is, honestly, the other day my body was just like, I was doing legs, and the next day my body was like you're not gonna give anything to this upper body. Which at first you're like, well, I train legs, that should be perfectly fine.
I was just gonna say it takes a lot of maturity to go, oh, one part of my body is all messed up. The next day, my upper, oh, it's fine. It's like, no, your systematic fatigue is still high.
Yeah. So this is one of my reasons why we wanted to do this podcast, to give information to newer people, or just to reinforce, like, you did legs, your system is still hit.
Yeah.
So the next day I was like, alright, I'm just gonna go and walk on the treadmill. And then Wednesday I was good.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, it would have been the slower body has nothing to do.
Yeah, I should
be
be able to do this.
I should do this. I should be able to bench completely fine. You get into the session, it sucks. Now you're in a funk.
And now you got mental stressors.
So now you're putting stuff into that box. So a way that I would love people to consider, to think about it, is you're gonna have external stressors, you're gonna have body stressors. Try not to add things into that box.
Oh, 100%. Things can get added regardless.
Yeah,
Do
don't you add it, like, yeah. Don't you be like, I'm sore, I don't care. I'm doing it anyway.
I'm an animal.
Yeah, now you got an injury.
Yep.
Mentally you're messed up now, and then now this whole process of getting back to where you could have been by just taking the day off, removing an exercise could help all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So my last question on this one, Joe's training style, with your training style, do you feel that you have more body stressors than maybe how you first started training?
I think once you get stronger, your body is actually not able to handle as much, I wouldn't say volume, but like overall volume throughout the week. So like I know, like when I first started, I could pull off a 12-week phase. Now there's times like I'll get to week 8 and I'm like, I know for a 100% fact there's no way next week I can replicate that session. It's not happening. Like I barely got through that session, and I got through it well. Everything went was supposed to. It was good contractions, no joint pain. But there's physically and mentally, there's no way that session can be replicated and progressive overloaded next week.
Say that part again, because people think when you get stronger,
you can handle more. Absolutely not, dude. Absolutely not. No way.
It's like, I'm stronger, I should up the volume. It's like,
your volume can be, so like if, like when I do people's programming, like if they're brand new, the first week they have like 1 set for their working set. The next week, depending on how new they are, if they're still giving me like, yeah, I'm still getting sore, it's still gonna stay 1 set. Then they'll progress to 2 sets. And if someone's new, they'll probably stay at 2 sets for a couple of phases. When you increase volume and you're more experienced, you can go up to 3 sets. And for me, my last like 4 weeks, I go up to 4 sets for my exercises. But the time that I can do that for is way reduced. Just because the more volume that's in there, the more connective tissue work that's happening, the more stress on the body systematically, cognitive, like neurologically, your brain. So it's like, you can push and you can get strong, but you have to respect that strength with being able to respect recovery.
Yeah. You have to respect the strength enough to respect the recovery.
Yeah.
You can't.
Recovery will slap you in the face every time.
Yeah, the recovery's the body. The body is going to win. So your best bet is to just literally like play with it.
Yeah, respect what it wants to do. I've had times where my phase was 10 weeks, and I remember the last time it was a hamstring session. I got done with it, and I was sitting in this room, and I was like, well, that's it for this phase. Like, I know for a fact that, like, the way I feel right now, if I go back and actually try to do that, I'm gonna either hurt myself or I'm just not gonna hit my numbers. Like, once you do it for a while, like, as you know, like, once you're matured in your training age, there are certain things that, like, you can pick out that you couldn't pick out when you first started.
Yeah.
100%.
Which is key. When you first start, you don't know that.
Absolutely not.
So anytime you feel stress on the body, you automatically think, kill the phase. And this is where we see program hopping.
Yeah.
Like 1 week I'm on this, next week I'm on this. Because you're trying to find out what's the most comfortable thing with this phase.
Comfortable, which is not a good
Which
thing.
is not a good thing.
Absolutely
No. For sleeping maybe, but not for like training.
Not for training.
And you try to find out what's the most comfortable exercises that program gives me. So now that's the best. Versus, let me stick this out. I always say, like, if you don't hire a coach, until you become knowledgeable enough, even sometimes when you're knowledgeable enough, either get a program from somebody that knows what they're doing.
Please talk to somebody.
Or talk to somebody at least to be like, hey, dude, you train RDLs with dumbbells on Monday. I'm not gonna go that well on Wednesday.
Well, when I was like in my early 20s, I trained 7 days a week, and like I'd have like a chest session. It was 3 hours. I did like incline dumbbell, incline barbell, decline barbell, like everything every chest machine, every flying machine. And I just like the more I did, the better I was gonna get out of it. And then Chris Tuttle came to me one time. We were at East Hartford Club Fit.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, bro, I see you in here, like you're grinding, like you're doing it. Try taking a rest day. It's like, oh no, fuck that. Like, I don't want to take rest days. Like,
He's hating on me.
Yeah, I don't want to take rest days. I listened to Chris's advice. I gained like 20 pounds, and it was about a year, which isn't normal, but it was literally because like I wasn't giving my body the rest I needed, and I wasn't listening to anything. I was just listening to myself. Like, no, just go in, grind. This is what you do. Like, the more you get in, the more you get out. It took somebody with more experience, more knowledge, more training age than me to be like, hey man, I've been there. Cut the shit. Like, listen to me. If Chris never did that, dude, and then years later, I took 2 rest days. So I trained 3 days on, 1 day off.
You're like,
oh, crazy. Yeah.
So, I'll make sure I tag Chris in that. I've known Chris for a long time too.
Really good dude.
It's hard to argue him because
he's been in it for so long.
He's been in it for so long. So I would see when my first bodybuilding competition was with Chris, and I met him and we were talking and I was training, and he was like, I was squatting, so after a set, he was training with me, so like I was trying to keep up with him. Like, it wasn't looking good at all. Like he was like repping 405 for 20, and like standing back up pretty normal after. So I'm like, I need at least hit 275 for 20 at that time, and I just couldn't do it. And he said something that changed the game for me forever. He said, just because I'm training with you doesn't mean you have to do like what I'm doing. I'm training with you so you have someone to like bounce questions off, things like that. But just so you know, I've been doing this 10 more years than you've been doing this.
Yes.
It doesn't mean something's wrong with you.
Yep.
I just have more skin in the game.
Yes, exactly. Overall,
yeah.
mentally,